Hello and welcome to Our Time.
And welcome back, more to the point. We never thought we would see you again quite like this.
No.
Because since last year, the program basically has been repeats from last year to keep the program going.
But we thought we weren't coming back.
Because, as you probably know, the community networks throughout Australia had lost their licence or were going to, and there was a literal last-minute decision by the Australian government to continue
extend for another 6 months.
And hopefully for longer, because we're very aware that the stations throughout Australia are canvassing for that to happen. And if you would like to continue to have community television coming into your home absolutely free of charge, then there's only one thing you need to do, and that's to get onto your local politician and tell them that that's what you want them to agitate for in Canberra. Our political announcement is over.
So can we welcome our first guest?
We can,
who is
a very special first
friend.
guest.
Welcome, Peter Gers.
Hello,
welcome
Janice.
back, I should say.
Janice Beebe. Why aren't you? You're Janice someone else now.
Well, I'm Janice Beebe.
What happened to Beebe?
Well, she married.
Hello, Malcolm Howes.
Hello, Peter
Look at
Gers.
the two of you. A lovely couple.
We are.
We don't know a couple of what, we don't know. But anyway, a lovely couple.
Lovely couple.
And neither of you have ever gone grey.
No.
No, isn't that rubber? In fact, I've gone slightly, what's it called? Auburn.
Auburn.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. I just woke up one morning
Spending too much time with me.
You were Auburn, yeah. And of course, now, see, Malcolm Hazlitt, now I met you when I was, I'd played the Artful Dodger in Oliver for Findon High School.
Oh, my husband went to Findon High School.
Did he really?
Yes, I think he's a year younger than you.
Well, this was when I was...
Oh, he must be 71 then.
No, when I was 15, so that's 1984. And... And I'd played it, I'd ended up in 3 different productions of Oliver playing the Artful Dodger. And then we saw that you were auditioning for a boy in I Love You, Humphrey B. Bear.
Oh, okay. Good.
At Her Majesty's Theatre.
We did it at Her Majesty's.
And I think it went to Perth and played that Hamburger.
Funnily enough, we started at the Royalty.
Yes.
Then we went to Perth, where it was a sellout season before we arrived.
Yes.
And then they took it to Melbourne.
So I came to the old King's Musical with my father.
Right.
And auditioned for you. And I think Tom King was playing the piano.
No, David King.
David
King, who's now in charge of the musical theatre course at Whopper in Perth.
And I didn't get the part.
Oh,
that one, yes.
And Carl Pink did. Whatever happened to Carl Pink?
No idea.
Bless his heart. But I'm still here.
Good for you.
Here I am with you.
Yes.
But Peter, it's lovely to have you here.
Funny,
I've been on your radio show, I don't know how many times.
You're coming on soon, aren't you?
But, yes. No, I've been on. No, last week I've been on.
Talking about the 40th anniversary of your talent school.
Exactly right. Yeah. But let's talk about your anniversaries, because you've had a few.
I have, rather.
Particularly as a performer.
Excuse me, what a beautiful singer you are. Why aren't you singing?
Oh.
Where's a microphone? Let's hear it. I want to hear her sing. Beautiful, with that sort of voice, warming, beautiful voice like Julie Andrews.
Thank you.
Yeah, lovely.
It is.
I'll perform after.
Yes. No. And you're in a wonderful state of preservation, aren't you,
I might just go home, I think. I might just go home.
What keeps it all up?
Oh, there's plenty of putty there. It's the putty.
Well,
now, Peter,
yes, Malcolm.
you performed. You just started with the other story, but...
then we auditioned for you for the Channel 9ers doing comedy sketches. You didn't give us the part either.
Oh, didn't I? How unkind.
So you're still speaking to him?
It was a world full of no.
It must have been the executive producer made a decision, not me.
Where's Humphrey Bear?
Yes, well, not
Is he coming in here? No.
He's gone to
But you've
Queensland.
had a long career. What is it, 60 years on stage?
Do you know, this is really the truth and frightening to say. It's 65 years this year
Well, you were
I've been performing.
Phil Skinner gave you your first job.
She says that, and she did give me a job, but I actually started before I really knew Phil that well.
Yep.
But I saw her in a pantomime when I was 3 years old. Aladdin at the Royalty Theatre here, and I knew exactly that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Yeah. But it's not about me, it's about you.
Yeah.
Now tell me.
You're doing something in the Fringe?
Yes.
You're still performing.
Who isn't?
Exactly.
Who isn't?
Who isn't?
You know, the Fringe, there's a show, you can go along to a show that is healing through origami for 4 hours.
That'll be
You can go along to a show which is whiskey tasting. Yeah, I don't know. You can go along to a show.
Is that a show, though?
I don't know. There's a show that teaches you how to break out of the Adelaide jail. That could be handy. But amidst all this, and amidst all the 75,000 comedians from Melbourne and London, all of whom do jokes against Adelaide until they get here.
Yes.
Yes.
There's little old me, because I thought, well, why not? And I did a show last year called Actors, Drunks and Babies Never Hurt Themselves. And,
which you did, first of all, at my theatre.
I did. I tried it out there. I
did.
wish I was trying out this show at your theatre.
Well, you always can.
Thank you. And a week before I opened that show this time last year, I fell flat on my face leaving the Peterborough Rodeo, Janice. Flat on my face. And my friend Smagger, who was with me, the singer, said, trust you girls to go to a rodeo and be picked up by two cowboys, which I was, because they had to pick me up out of the mud. And
face down?
Face down in the mud. I've just been to the Peterborough
You know,
Rodeo.
they're saying about blacking up, you shouldn't do that, Peter.
This year, the vet said the only animal that he declared unfit for the rodeo was me.
Is this what your show is going to be, your new show?
I don't know what it's...
You haven't
Ain't
written
got
it
that far yet.
You only open next week.
No,
It'll
I've
be
got
fabulous.
various ideas. No, look, it's, tales about show business, and it's tales about suburban Adelaide, growing up, as I did in the lee of the...
That might be you. Take the call, take the call.
Oh, take the call.
Because Peter has to do a live-to-air cross to...
Hello? Could you ring back in 3 minutes? Thanks. Told you not to call me on this.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm sorry about this.
That's
sorry,
all right.
Malcolm.
It's good to know that you're so popular. But speaking of your popularity, I saw the previous show.
Yes, yeah.
And of course, I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
You are such a unique performer
Yes.
in that you're not a stand-up comic.
No.
But you could be put in that category in today's idiom of stand-up
I suppose.
But suddenly you talk like you write. So when we read your column in the Sunday Mail, I can hear you talking it, if that makes sense.
Well,
you're one of those unique personalities that write and talk the
same
grammar,
way.
the way that you express things.
It's yarns, I think.
It's a particular style that you have that
I don't
is
know what it is.
quite unique to you, though.
I'm just pleased to have a style. Thank you. It's, I will recall, you get to an age, you'll understand this, chums and listeners, viewers, you get to an age where you learn, I learn something new every day, but I forget 5 other things. Does this happen to you?
That's frightening,
But
it's true.
you do remember. So growing up in Woodville, in the lee of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, so my Friday nights were going over to my mate Richard Ortner's house, and we'd watch Homicide, which was
yes.
very exciting. It was Leonard Teale and Don Barker.
Well, we just
and George
recently
Mallaby.
had John Orsick on, who was on that show.
Yeah.
Then we'd go across the road to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, to the casualty department, to see if any of the drivers from Rowley Park had come in. And if they had, we'd interrogate them about their crash.
Kim's father was big time at Rowley Park.
Oh, really?
Oh, he used to race.
Well, we weren't allowed to go, you see, because of a perceived rough element at Rowley Park. So then we'd go home, we'd watch Deadly Earnest.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes,
Hedley
Hedley
Cullen.
Cullen.
That was Hedley.
Then when that was finished, we'd stand on the roof of his father's shed, Richard's father's shed, and look across the suburbs for the fireworks at Rowley Park. Crap like that you remember.
Yes.
And then tales from travels. I was living in Turkey in the 90s, and I'd just arrived there, and I was in a hotel, and I pulled the blanket back, and there was no top sheet. And I rang down to reception, and I said, I need a sheet. And there was a pause, and they said, well, use the toilet. And I said, no, sheet. There was sort of and then when I hung up the phone, I burst out laughing. And I thought, do they think I'm a New Zealander? I want a sheet. Who knows what these people think? So it's all that sort of crap. I don't know where
But
it
is
comes
that
from.
going in the show? Are
I don't
those
know.
stories?
Do you think so?
I think that's a great story. Well, we all laughed.
I
Everyone
think
here has
so.
got a smile on their
We'll
face.
whack it in. But it's stuff like that. And, I talk about you know, I've had a very, very fortunate life, and people, when I was growing up, people would say to me, especially working in the theatre, you would have had this, Malcolm, too, Janice, you did go away. But people would say, go away, leave. And I thought, why? I can do everything I want to do here.
More fun here.
Sooner or later, everybody comes here. There's wonderful people to work with here, like our aforementioned Phil Skinner. Wonderful people. And I think I was very glad of that.
Yes, but before we run out of time,
Yes.
one of the things that is worth mentioning for everybody watching this program around Australia is, where is your show on?
At Holden Street Theatres, and for the entire Fringe. It's I think there's 8 performances.
Wow.
And it's a time I pioneered, actually. I'm very pleased with this. That you remember what we used to call the shoppers' sessions? In the cinema, 5 o'clock.
Oh, okay, yes, yep.
Shoppers' sessions. And
So you finish work these
and
days,
5
and you can
o'clock
just go and see a show.
or on the weekend, and you're on your way out to see other
What a
things.
great idea.
Or older people that can
Yes,
go
it's not
home,
too late.
to their nursing homes and have a kerosene bath.
So how long?
Tell matron before you go, sign yourself out.
How long is the show for then? How long is it? An hour or an hour and a half? Or?
No, God, no. It's about 50 minutes plus. Get him off. They bring a hook out.
Right.
Listen,
Because the Fringe, you're sitting in the car, you're changing the car park, gee, because
Yes.
Janice, you couldn't cope.
There's no
and then you're
dressing
waiting
room.
to get
Yes.
in, and then some bastard's waiting for you to finish to
So
get
they
in.
can
It's
get
like
in there
that.
as well.
Yeah.
Listen, they're giving us the you've got to go signal, but we haven't hardly scratched the surface with you.
well,
Will you come back another time
Of
and talk
course,
to us
and it's
again?
very kind for you to think of
So
me.
your show
Janice
starts...
and Robin Roanfeld.
Thank you. He'll love that. Tell me the date of your show. When does it start?
I open on the February the 18th and I close on March the 19th. It's
next
Saturdays and
So
Sundays.
if you're living in
all
South
through.
Australia, it's next
And
week.
it's a nice show, particularly for old people.
Thank you.
On that
Thank
note, we thank Peter Gers, and we'll be back in a moment with another amazing performer. Don't go anywhere, Peter. Another amazing performer with a great story to tell, who also has a show in the Adelaide Fringe, David Gauci. See you soon.
Welcome back. It's one of those programs we've got.
About the Fringe.
Yes, but also Friends.
Friends and Fringe.
Friends and Fringe.
2 Fs. Now, just before we introduce our next guest, if you don't live in South Australia, and if you're seeing this program, of course you're seeing the program, otherwise I'm not talking to you. The Adelaide Fringe is now part of sort of an international circuit, I guess, of fringes around the world. And it's the second largest fringe out of Edinburgh, which is the largest fringe in the world. And have we got the largest guest?
David.
I think you do.
Oh,
I think you do.
David Gauci.
That was a terrible
It
segue.
was. And you call him a friend.
Oh, he's a very good friend. He's a very good friend.
David,
Yes.
welcome.
David, this is the third time you've been on our program, I think.
I think it is the third time that I've been on.
Because you are, in your own right, a brilliant performer.
Thank you very, very much.
You did a
Malcolm.
Christmas special, didn't you? Beautiful voice, sang.
Yes, he did, and
Yes, he
also
did.
Cabra Under the Star.
Yeah.
That's right.
As well,
Yeah.
our first one.
Yes, and since then I've been involved with the Adelaide Cab Festival, doing
Yes.
It Was Worth the Wait.
With Josh Belperio, who was
Correct.
on the show last year.
Yes, and Josh and I will be doing that show again too, as part of the
So
Fringe.
we've got 2 shows to talk about.
Well, we can if we want.
Well, David, the real reason is because the Fringe gets a lot of airtime all over the country, but most of it is about the major hubs of the Fringe,
Yep.
which are the Garden of Unearthly Delights, Gluttony, and now there's 2 more.
Yes, there are. There's the Royal Croquet Club, and there's
Adelaide
Live
Oval.
on 5 at Adelaide Oval. Yes.
But a lot of people don't realise there are venues, of course, all over South Australia, but particularly around Adelaide. There are venues like Holden Street Theatre where Peter is
Peter's
doing
doing.
his show and you're doing yours.
At the Star Theatre, which is another one of the theatres, local theatres in Adelaide.
And that's the show you're producing called...
Violet. So the
Which is-
show's called Violet.
What's it about?
Violet is a musical and written by a lovely lady called Jeannie Tesori. Jeannie wrote Shrek, and Thoroughly Modern Millie is probably the musical most people remember from the late Mary Tyler Moore movie, with the movie of the same name. Violet is a story about a young girl who's travelling from North Carolina to Tulsa in the search for a TV evangelist. The music is fantastic. It's soul, it's blues, it's a bit of country pop, Memphis sound and gospel. And the story is basically, because she's got this injury that she sustained at 13, she's got a scar on her face, she's seeking the help of a TV evangelist. But it's set in the 1960s, which is around the time of the civil rights movement in America. And on her bus trip, she meets two soldiers, both of whom are considering going to Vietnam. One is an African-American man called Flick, the other one a young, what we call white-bread American boy, all-American boy called Monty. And she strikes up a friendship with these two boys on her way through to Tulsa. And as a result, she comes to realise that actually there are other people who've had a life very similar to hers. She always says, people don't look at me. And young Flick, the African-American soldier, says, well, no one ever looks at me either. So during the course of the show, we get lots of flashbacks to Violet's life with her dad. And when she finally meets the televangelist, what she discovers and what really needs healing is something much deeper. It's beautiful. It really is. One of the most moving moments, I think, in music theatre that I've seen is this moment where her father and her finally have a conversation, her now at the age of 25.
Wow.
And her father deceased. So she basically has a beautiful conversation with the ghost of her father. It's beautiful, really beautiful show.
Oh,
yes.
I've got goosebumps even just thinking about that.
Well, David's got some shots here of the rehearsals. So everything isn't as it'll look in the show, in these shots?
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, we've got, it's basically, as I say, set on a bus. So we have there most of the cast of the show.
On the bus?
On the bus. And we don't actually build a bus, so we use seats. There's the wonderful Adam Goodburn. We're so lucky to have Adam. Adam is from State Opera, and he's come on board and giving his time freely. As I mentioned, it's got this lovely gospel feel, and the marvellous Lisa Simonetti plays the head of our gospel choir, Lula Buffington, and the rest of the cast there. Andrew, now some people would remember Andrew Crisp. Andrew's been involved in shows like Oklahoma and Big Fish. He's an amazing performer, and he's playing our preacher, our televangelist.
Right.
Mitchell Smith, and there is our Violet, Casimira Cullen, in a little moment there. That's part of the, you sort of get
It's
an idea
not a
of the
bedroom
relationship.
scene.
Well, there is, but quite a safe one. So I would say it's pretty safe for the kids. And there, Farhad Farouk playing Flick. And that trio are amazing. They're a powerhouse, really, for the show. Just another scene there with the boys. In one of the confrontation scenes, the waiter there has just told young Flick maybe he should get a booth and not sit with everyone else. So there's that real sense of what's happening in the...
So there's still relevance for today as well, when you think about it.
Absolutely there is. In fact, I think what's been really amazing is having the cast sit and watch the show and say, you know, this actually still resonates strong right now, especially with what's been happening recently with our neighbours over the other side of the ocean there in the USA. It's very, very interesting. So, yeah, it's been very, very good.
Well, it's an American story, obviously.
It is, yes, set in America. It's originally, the story was called The Ugliest Pilgrim, written by a lady called Doris Betts.
And turned into a musical.
Absolutely, yeah.
As many have been. Do you feel, because this is one of the major fringe shows, because it's probably on longer than most of the fringe shows are,
Yep.
Do you feel people are able to connect with the fringe to see these sorts of things, or do you think they're more or less pulled away by the travelling shows that are worldwide, as we were saying in the opening?
I think it is very, very difficult for the smaller local theatre groups and even just individuals to get their profile out there and their name out there. I do think it's very difficult. I mean, it's very hard to when you've got a budget of, you know, between $500 and $1,000 to get your name and advertising out there, up against $50 to $100,000.
But this is what the Fringe is all about, though, isn't it?
Should be.
To bring these local people in to show
Yes.
what they have to offer.
I think maybe the understanding of what the Fringe was intended to be initially, because the Adelaide Festival of Arts all came into Adelaide from somewhere else pretty much. And the Fringe was really local people saying, well, hang on, we live here and we work here. This is really common for anywhere in Australia that there is a Fringe.
Yeah.
We live and work here and we want to be part of it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
It's getting harder to be that.
It is, and it's really interesting because the other thing I think about Fringe, and this is why I often select the musicals I do, is that the Fringe should be something that's a little edgy and something that perhaps you wouldn't normally go to see during the course of the year. This gives... But now we're getting a lot of what I would call mainstream comedians, mainstream theatre, and big budget productions.
Yes.
I mean, I don't for one second deny them the opportunity to perform, but I think sometimes it's diluted a little what Fringe is.
Well, you lose the other stuff to see. We can see them on telly all the time. But this is a premiere here?
It is, yes. It's never played in Adelaide, which is fantastic. That's something else that I like to try and do.
I've heard the rehearsal, some of the singing in the rehearsal. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, really amazing. It sends the goose pimples. Not goosebumps up your spine, and that's not the word. Tingles down your spine. That's what I'm trying to say. It really does, though. The harmonies are wonderful. Who's done that for you?
Well, our musical director is Peter Johns, and Peter's done a lot of wonderful music theatre. Been very involved with the carols at Civic Park, writing arrangements, organising choirs. He is a magician when it comes to music.
It's excellent. Now, we've talked about that, and we've only got a minute left to talk about your show.
It was worth the wait. So WEIGHT, by the way, yes, wait. It's kind of a semi-autobiographical music number, cabaret, goes for about an hour, where I sit and wax lyrical about my life as a stage performer. I've had a few experiences and a wonderful
Now, don't
life.
Undersell yourself.
All
You've
right.
been in all the shows. Phantom, Cats. Hairspray.
Yes, absolutely. Been involved with them and performed in them and travelled with them. And this is a little opportunity to talk about the origins of my performing life way back in the dim
But
dark
these were all the
recesses.
professional productions
Yes,
too.
absolutely.
And where will we
absolutely.
be able to find your performance?
This is at Live on 5 in at Adelaide Oval.
Lovely.
Yes.
And all starts with the Fringe next week.
Yes, it
now,
does.
David, stay with us for a minute, because I know we've got a bit of vision with some of the performers from the show.
Yes, we do.
And we'd love to show you that, and we'll be back in a tick.
We have our very dear friend here, David Gauci, talking about the Fringe that's happening in Adelaide. So
That you've got two completely different shows in.
Absolutely.
One with you and one with Violet.
Yes.
David,
absolutely.
what's your advice to people at times when Fringes and these sorts of things are on?
Look for a local show. Look for a local show and go out and do something different. Go and see a show that you'd never imagined you'd go and see. Take a risk.
Well, it's always a good surprise, and if you don't like it, that's a lesson learned. If you love it, then you've really got something to remember.
And tell your friends about it.
And nothing is like seeing a live show. It's great to see you this way, but when we're really there and people are really performing in front of you, it's fantastic. David, I know you've got a clip of some of the performers singing at...
Yes, it was at Broadway Sessions about a week ago, and they got up and did a short medley of some of the songs from Violet.
So this isn't actually from the show. This is just some of the music. Thank you so much for rejoining us. It's great to have your company this year.
it is.
Perhaps for the last time, but we've all got our fingers crossed. So until next time on Our Time...
We will see you then. Thank you for joining us. Please take care.
Yeah, keep yourself nice till then. And here's that clip from the performers from the show Violet.